Hi guys, it's Leanne here, and today on my channel we're doing podcast number Who Knows. And today we're going to try something a little different. I'm doing tofu. I have to say I've never tried tofu, and I'm going to have to use my phone to quickly Google how to prepare tofu because it's a wet, soggy inside, like we all know. So yes, and I'm going to cut it into 3 sections, and basically I'm going to season them differently. I'm going to do 2 blocks per section. I have section 1, which is plain, and then at the end I'm going to add everything but the bagel seasoning since it has black sesame seeds. So that's going to be number 1. Number 2, I'm going to do 2 different types. I'm going to do 1 block as seasoning salt and Cajun seasoning just to add a little spice in there. And then block number 2 for section number 2 is going to be the salmon rub. Again, just to add something different. If you hear that, that is the cats in the background. They are playing with a plastic bag, or I should say a paper bag from Trader Joe's. And then section number 3 is going to be Suyoki sauce. I'm going to marinate it in there. And it says it's for tofu, so hopefully that's good. Okay, so for the first step, we are literally just going to and then it says to press it. That's as good as I can press it. I'm going to put it back because it's kind of crumbling. Okay, so while we're starting the podcast, today's topic is about my hospital stay. So let's kind of just get into it. I'm going to put background out there, and this is kind of just live thoughts. So for starters, I do want to give you guys background on my hospital stay. And if you guys are new here, you guys should stick around because I feel like this is important to know about me, in my opinion. But I was 10 years old. I'm not going to use this one because it's crumbly. Okay. So I'm going to put the rest in the package. I was 10 years old, so this was back in 2013. So we're aging back quite some time. And I had a best friend at the time, which we did separate our own ways, but that's okay. So I'm going to next go in. These are going to be the plain. These are going to be the seasoned ones, and then these are going to be the marinated. We're going to work on the marinated first. But to date back, we, at the end of day, went to PE like 3 times a week, and I was in 5th grade at the time. And so my best friend looked at me and said, "You don't look very good." And she decided to tell the PE coach that I should sit on the sidelines. And so I did. And after a while, the PE coach did notice that I was still not looking good. So I was sent to the principal's, well, I shouldn't say the principal's office, but the front office, so that my mom could pick me up. And I did end up vomiting, which is kind of plays a key role into all of this. But I end up spending pretty much the next 2 weeks of this time in and out of doctor's visits, pediatricians, just like ridiculous amounts of doctor's visits. And each and every single doctor told me that, well, told my mom, because I was 10 at the time, that I'm sick and it'll go away on its own. Now, a little background on my mom, actually. I love you if you're watching this. She, when I was not even a twinkle in her eye, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, she actually worked in the peds department in Chicago, but it was also a hospital, but she worked in the outpatient department. And so she followed by the books the entire fucking time, and she was getting annoyed and pissed. I'm going to take a little break for a second, and I'm going to move this over to the other side, and I am going to still be talking to you guys. She was very by the books. She did everything like she was supposed to, and nothing was working. So my aunt at the time was actually going back to college to work on a degree in, I want to say hospitality, I believe. And so now she works at a country club. But essentially, she was taking care of me and that particular day, and she told my parents that I literally just whined and cried the entire time, and I wasn't speaking. So I wasn't saying anything, and I wasn't doing anything. It was literally just like pure nothing. And so my mom and dad kind of like essentially threw in the towel and took me back to the hospital. And this is in 2-week time range, just to keep in mind. And so the hospital was going to send me home again. And my mom was like, no, there's something wrong with her. Like, I know, like, it's mother's intuition, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to top the thing with a little bit of oil while I'm talking to you guys. But she basically demanded for an MRI and or a CAT scan, which, if you don't know, they do different things. And I'll pop on the screen like what the difference is. Now we're just going to wait for this to heat up at the moment. But they ended up doing, I think, a CAT scan. And they ended up what they thought at the time, they thought they saw a mass in my brain. So at the time, the hospital that I went to didn't have an attaching children's side, so they sent me over to the nearest one, which was in Tampa. At the time, it was called All Children's Hospital, but now it's owned by Johns Hopkins, so it's Johns Hopkins All Children's, and out in St. Pete, so the St. Pete area. And it was a wonderful hospital, and I have to say nothing but good word for it. And the surgeon, which was a female, not that it matters, but the surgeon basically that was working on me, and this is gory, so just to let you know, I was sent by ambulance, and they did like what seemed like 2 or 3 MRIs each day for a straight month, because I was in the ICU for like 2 and recovering for 2, I believe. But they ended up noticing that the mass that they thought was a mass was actually fluids in my brain. And if you're anything familiar with that, or have been watching my channel for a while, you would know that I actually had verdant streptococcus. Now, if you were to Google it, you're not going to get much information because it's one of the most rare forms of fluids in the brain. What they did was I can't even tell you because honestly, I have no freaking clue. But, sorry, I need to get we're going to start with the plain and the seasoned one. And we're going to do 5 minutes roughly on each side. So it's going to take a while. So I'm just going to chit chat with you guys in the meantime. Basically, I ended up having 3 major brain surgeries, which they did cut open and the whole 9 yards. So fun fact, you guys can actually notice it if you were face to face. But a lot of people say that right where the area where they put a piece of metal in my forehead, people say that it's blue or like a purple, almost kind of like a vein, if you will. Sorry, my cat's going ape shit over there. Chris is just looking at the floor. So it was driving me a little nuts because I could see him in my peripheral. But they also, on the other 4 to 6 other surgeries, if you will, they went in with kind of they just went in small hole, nothing too major. And yes, I think that I'll go into my thoughts in a minute, but it was a crazy time. And I think that, okay, let me break it down for you. Now we're going to go into my thoughts because I'm kind of saying I think a lot. Oh, the crazy cool thing is that I was released February 29th, 2013. Let me break it down for you if you don't understand. First of all, it was a leap year. I got released any day. I could have been released any day, but I got released on a leap day on a leap year. I think that's a miracle on its own. And 2, 2012 was the year, supposedly, if you Google it, you'd see it. It was supposed to be the year that the world ended. So I thought that was a little crazy and a little nuts to me, in my opinion. Let's talk about my thoughts then, because honestly, I'm kind of just checking the bottom of them. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more minutes on this side, but I have a list here. In lack of better terms, I felt like a loser almost. Like a loser, a loner, like an outcast. And I think that I was 10 and something very, 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 very major and something that doesn't happen to an average Joe or an average Jane, if you will. I think I didn't have that time to process before or after. It kind of just happened. And so it was one of those moments where because I couldn't process what happened and I was so young. So honestly, I don't know what, I didn't understand what happened then, if that makes sense. I am now flipping them. But honestly, I felt like an outcast. I felt that no one understood my situation. No one understood anything that was happening to me. I don't think that anyone was going to take me seriously because of what happened. And I think that back then I thought myself as less than, when in reality, that was a freaking miracle that I lived. I'm going to talk about that in a later portion, but I kind of then left it in a chest. Like, imagine you're in your brain and it's black or white, whatever you prefer, and you see this chest, and then you open the chest, it's empty. You stick that entire set of thoughts and processing and everything in the chest. You close the chest, you lock it, you throw away the key, and then you shove it into the black hole that's right next to it. That's how, not even how, but that's what I did. And honestly, I think that was so wrong. But again, we're going to go into that in the later section. But it affected me so hard. It was so hard for me to make friends because I feel like anyone who I talked to wasn't going to take me seriously, like I said, or I just wasn't like them. I wanted that normal life back, but in reality, what I started doing is I stopped taking care of myself. So hygiene, self-care, making myself happy. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to say it, but it happened and it did. I didn't take myself seriously. And honestly, when that happens, I think you become a certain someone. And then you start to think, well, this person said this about me, so I want to be like this. Or you start to think in that mindset about what you could have done better or how you are versus what you want to be. And then like I said, it becomes this black hole of never ending things. Like, it makes you want to be the best and want to be popular, and it makes you essentially, in my opinion, change. Like, you caring about what other people think about you almost makes your perception of your life blurry, if that makes sense. And I guess that's how it was, because I can go back into my memories of middle school and be like, well, these times I felt so lonely in middle school, even though I had a small circle of friends, I still felt fucking lonely. Like, I felt that even though I had friends, I truly wasn't their friends. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But now that I'm older and now that I am in my self-care or self-help era, I'm starting to realize that not being okay is completely fine. But drowning yourself in sorrow isn't going to help you any. You can cry it out, but at the end of the day, when you cry it out, let it go and then read a book or watch your favorite show. Do something that you love. That way, even though you just cried it out, you're still going to make yourself happy. And I think when you start to essentially take care of yourself and take the time in the day, whether that be 10 minutes or 2 hours, and whether you're doing self-care needs or just the basic reading, making a proper dinner or a proper breakfast, whatever time of day you choose, feeding yourself, and then doing a face mask or taking yourself on a little date, wherever that be, or reading or just watching a movie. I think that self-care is necessary, and I think that if I would have done the self-care needs then, I think I would be a lot happier now. But now that I'm looking at it, I don't like to be comparing what I could have done and what I could have thought and been happier and blah, 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 XYZ, because then honestly, it'll end up driving you nuts in a sense. I am now flipping back to my camera, setting it back up, and I'm going to grab a paper plate and we're going to set the on the paper plate. And now I'm going to bring over this one. And I'm just letting the sauce cook on there. It's just going to drip right into that little section. But now I'm just going to let it cook for the same amount of time, about 5 minutes on each side. And I didn't end up doing the little sides, but I think that I'm going to switch back over to my little template, if you will. Basically doing what you want in a realistic way. So if you know that you only have a small amount of money, going to the mall with your friends is probably not realistic, but doing something that you enjoy, little or big, it almost takes all that mental taxing thoughts out of your head. I don't know how to make that make sense. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, and if you don't, you don't. But even though that situation may not have been, and I'm going to read it straight from, may not been ideal, I'm alive, and I need to know that I beat all of the odds, literally. And when I'm talking about all the odds, like I'm talking about like the fact that I sat and I beat the fact that I had a 50-50 chance of knowing anyone or remembering anything up until that point in time. And I beat that. I was relearning things at such an extraordinary pace. The therapy, just like everything. It's just crazy because I don't think that I really understand truly that beating all of those odds and living today, as crazy as that sounds, putting that in my head should at least make me realize that even though that was a terrible time in my life, I think that it happened for a reason, and whatever happens, happens. And I think that looking at it negatively will only make me succeed less. I've noticed since I've kind of like started to talk about it again, I feel like it works and it's helping and it's making me want to, or it's at least motivating me to want to finish the book that I started. And a little fun fact, the library in which is on the island, one of the people actually suggested that I write a book about it. At the time, I wasn't up for it, but now I think that's an option. I think that finishing the book that I started would be a great opportunity to bring awareness to verdant streptococcus and bring awareness that in every low situation that happens, there's always a high and there's always a reason. Although that it was a terrible time and that it was mentally taxing for a lot of people, I think that positive-wise, it made me grow to who I am now. And kind of going back on the perception of other people's opinions, the perception that they think about in their opinion just shows that they're really just jealous and want something that you have that they don't have. They're wanting something that they can't have at that time. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know, and if you've ever been in the situation of people saying bad shit about you, you'd understand what I'm saying. But just know that they're just jealous. They want something that they don't have, and they want something that you have. Piggybacking right off that, just picking and choosing battles wisely shows. It shows and it helps. Like, not every battle is worth fighting, and you're stumped. I think the best advice that I could give you is that think about yourself after that battle. What do you think will happen? And is it worth going through that battle? I'm kind of just trying to just hit every point that I want, and then I can be kind of like just throwing words out there. The last kind of thing is I've noticed that writing it out works. I know it's crazy, and some people may not love the idea of writing it out in a journal, and some people don't love taking the time out of their day to do it, and I get it. But in my opinion, it works, and I do whatever works just to ease my mind. Okay. So they look good, they smell good, and yes. Here's the plate. I'm going to set it to the side, and I am just going to take a minute and pause, and I will come back to you when the food is cooled down a bit. I'm going to bring you guys over to the table. So I have my plate, I have the water just in case it isn't good, and I have the everything but bagel seasoning. And we are just going to try it. Whoops. Okay. Plain don't work. I can see why people hate it. It's a bland. Has no taste. Hold on. No taste. Plain does not work. Okay. Okay. Honesty, too much seasoning. Too much seasoning. It's better than the first one, but I wouldn't do a lot of seasoning. This one would be the one that isn't the salmon rub. Okay. I'm drinking water in between just so I can change the taste. Okay, this one's kind of stuck. Whoa. That one actually doesn't taste too bad. I would have to dip it in something, but that one doesn't taste too bad. Okay, last but not least, the one that I'm the most excited for. Bomb. That one's chef's kiss. That one's chef's kiss. I like that one. Tell me in the comments down below if you were to try this. Like, if you try this, tell me down in the comments down below which one you liked the best. And, or if you don't try it, tell me which one you would think you would try the first. Like, which one would you try first? And as always, I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I'm so sorry. Like, subscribe, give it a big thumbs up. And I love you guys.